Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll start this meeting. So, welcome to councillors and staff who are on the Zoom, and welcome to anyone who might be watching the live stream. So, a bit of an unusual situation this evening as we look to approve the consultation document and get our consultation on the long-term plan underway. Not made any easier by the fact that we've only received the modified documents from and the audit opinion 8 minutes before the scheduled meeting. So apologies for the slight delay in getting started while we've been reading through that. I'm going to hand straight over to Mr. Palmley just to introduce the report overall, and I'm sure he'll pass on to one of his officers. So, Alex.
Sorry, Your Worship, we've got some procedural things first in terms of apologies and the paper to decide whether to accept the late report.
Yes, we do. Thank you for reminding me on that. So, yeah, first of all, do we have any apologies? We're all here. That's good. All online. And any declarations of interest outside the usual interests that we all have as ratepayers. Okay, and moving on to the resolution to receive or defer a late agenda item. So is someone willing to move that we receive Councillor Thompson? Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor McCone. Any discussion on that? Councillor Hopkins. You're on mute, Councillor Hopkins.
Used myself unintentionally. I will vote against this. My view is that what audit has required us to do, and the fact that it has 8 minutes before this meeting, what the Audit Office of New Zealand has decided to do, and has required us to make by way of changes to our consultation document 8 minutes before this meeting, gives us inadequate time to properly consider whether we're entirely happy with what they are saying and what they're imposing. I'm genuinely concerned to see that their report includes a qualified decision. And I'd like to actually try and unpack that, because it seems to me that in that instance, with regard to the issue of water that they're raising in their report, which we only received 8 minutes ago, they seem to be at odds with the government, who appoints them and pays their salaries. And they're busy saying that we have to actually treat as a cost, exiting a cost to a separate entity. And I believe there is an argument for saying we're entitled to take a bit more time to consider that. And if that means having another meeting in a week, and if that means delaying the consultation for a week, so be it. But I will be voting against this, just probably unsuccessfully, but as a point of principle.
Thank you. And just on that, Mr. Palmer, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a serious item. Council does need to consider whether to accept this or not, because it was a late report, and as noted, this has been worked upon right until the last minute. I would say if you chose not to accept this report tonight, it would have implications for the council's consultation process and long-term plan process, and it would clearly generate a lot of work. But council needs to be comfortable proceeding with the consultation. My recommendation would be to accept the report and then consider whether you're going to accept the recommendations in the report or not, rather than essentially abandoning the meeting now for not the report.
That makes sense.
Okay, any other comments? I'll put it then that we accept their reports. Those in favour, just raise your hands. And against is carried. Thank you. So moving on to the report itself now, and Mr. Palmer, to you.
Thank you. I'm going to do a brief introduction, then I'm going to hand over to Amanda, who's going to explain a bit more detail about what some of the things mean and some of the background and some of the changes that have been made. But I wanted to clarify for you and for anyone watching online, because it's hard to determine from the papers we've got. But you're not being asked to agree a budget or an LTP tonight, and we are in fact in the middle of the process. And over the next few months, we've got a lot of work to do to agree that budget, including working to bring it back into balance and looking at how we can get that rates figure down that's in the consultation document as drafted at the moment. So the item you got before you this evening is to re-agree your consultation document to enable you to commence consultation with the community on the big issues that this council faces. This for me is an unusual process, and like many of you, this is my first long-term plan process as well. And we have to go through an audit process on our consultation document. We may disagree with that, but that's what the legislation says we have to do. This has been a really challenging process. It's taken up a lot of time of officers, almost full time for the past few weeks for a number of officers in trying to satisfy audit requirements and answer their very many queries, many of which have gone up to the Office of the Auditor General. So this hasn't just been Audit New Zealand. And as a result of that, there has been what I would consider minor changes to the consultation document to add clarification to satisfy the auditors that what we're going out to consult our community on, our community will be able to be clear on the basis for that. In terms of the circumstances we're in, the future for our local government is full of big decisions, rising costs, and a lot of uncertainty, particularly over water. And what became clear through this audit process was that how to handle this uncertainty had not really been thought about in the audit process and approach, and neither had the conflicts that exist now between the Local Government Act, the water legislation, and the draft water legislation. And so we're the first to go at this. We're head of the pack and essentially the guinea pigs. So it's been particularly difficult for us to navigate this. And I have to say, whilst we might be annoyed with audit, there's been a collaborative approach to working through these issues that haven't been tackled before. And as a result of that, you'll see what we've got is a qualified opinion and an emphasis of matter as well on the unbalanced budget and on the uncertainty that we and actually every council faces. I think it's important to note that by the time we get to setting the 9-year plan and budget in June, our intention is to have that balanced budget. And this is set out now in the consultation document. And there are a number of things that are included in the report there that are not in the financials that sit behind this consultation document. So, for example, transformation. We know we are generating efficiency savings, including the reduction in the staff headcount, which is at 9%. There are other efficiencies as well, which we've talked about. Those are not in there at the moment. We know from transferring water services, if that's what council eventually decides to do, there'll be some things called stranded overheads. So, this is the capacity and the costs in the rest of the organisation that currently support water, and we'll have to make some decisions on those. But we'll have 2 years to work those out of the system, out of the organisation, if council decides to transfer water. So, these are some substantial things in there that are contributing to that picture of an unbalanced budget at the moment, which we've been working through with audit and which we need to make decisions on over the coming months. So, in summary, we're in a challenging time. There's lots of conflicts in the legislation. There's a challenge in the audit process, but my encouragement to you is to consider the recommendations before you with a view to the work we need to do for our community, and that we need to go out and discuss with our community the major issues that we face that impact on them, so that we can continue to work through that process of setting a 9-year plan and budget by the end of June this year. So, Amanda, can I hand over to you to talk through some of the more details around the changes that have happened, but also give a bit more context to the matters that have been raised by audit in their letter that we've just received?
Sure. So I thought I might step through in the order of the attachments. So the first one being the audit opinion, which we just literally sent through. So as Alex has spoken about, there is an emphasis of matter to do with the accounting treatment of the transaction of transferring waters to the new water services entity on 1 July 2027. So that transaction is made up of all of the Three Waters assets, less the debt, and the net of that is the balance of 331 that as mentioned. And at the moment, we've just put that in other comprehensive income, so it doesn't affect the bottom line. And technically, in accounting standards, if we don't get any compensation back from this Three Waters entity, then that is a loss on sale. So it should affect the bottom line. So technically, under accounting standards, it should affect our bottom line. So the auditors have qualified our consultation document and emphasised that it should not be in other comprehensive income. It should be in our profit and loss and affect the bottom line. There is only one place where this would publicly show up, and that is in our balanced budget graph, which is within our financial strategy. So our finances are not actually, our budgets aren't actually public at this point. They will be when we finalise them at the long-term plan stage. But at this point, the only place you would see that is within that one graph in the financial strategy. And that's where you're supposed to balance the budget. So it's supposed to sit around nil, and this would show a $330 million loss, which is pretty obscure. And we don't believe that, currently the bill is silent on the treatment of that, and we think that will be sorted in coming months, and that won't be the case when we go to adopt our long-term plan. So it's a technicality within the audit standards. We felt it wasn't sensible to make that change, therefore we've been qualified for that. So I can take any questions on that. The emphasis of matter, there is 2 points there which we were expecting. One is to do with our unbalanced budget. So when we discussed this last in December, we had an unbalanced budget where our expenditure was higher than our revenue in the first 2 years of the plan, 2026 and 2027. So we were comfortable with that at that point, and thought that it would resolve if and when the Three Waters services move to another entity. Since making the audit changes over summer, so we've put in the new Burl inflation indices and new rates for recognising our fair value adjustments for our infrastructure, and so that has increased those balances and thus depreciation and expenditure in those later years. So that is why we have an unbalanced budget in all 9 years of the plan now. So they are just emphasising that to the public. Yet another thing that we think will be resolved at the final LTP stage. We do not intend to have an unbalanced budget in any year. There is a lot of levers that we could pull. We could simply increase rates at this point in time. We're consulting on a whole range of factors, selling property, all sorts of things that can impact on revenue and expenditure, and we will make sure that it's balanced at the final LTP stage once we've heard back from the public. And the last emphasis of matter is to do with the uncertainty to do with the whole future of water services delivery. Obviously, the bill is in draft, legislation is not final, there's a lot of unknowns. We expect this, every local government entity is going to have this sort of emphasis of matter in their opinion. So it's not special to us. And yeah, there's not much we can do about it at this point in time, but hopefully that will all be resolved when we sign off the LTP as well. So is there any questions on the opinion before I talk about the consultation document?
First of all, Amanda, just had a request about the auditor's letter getting posted, so I presume getting put on our website. So is it able to be done this evening, or it will need to be done tomorrow?
I will have to check with the auditor, given that it's in draft, whether it can be made public. But we are definitely going to get the final version tomorrow, and that will go to print in our final consultation document, and it'll all be made public on our website at some point tomorrow.
And the other is just the qualification on the water assets issue.
Yep.
Is it likely that all councils will be treated the same, and do you think all councils are going to take the same action that we are taking, or do you think they will comply with what the auditor is saying and treat it differently?
I'm not entirely sure. It's their prerogative whether they want to, like, there'll be a lot of councils that have bigger numbers than we're talking. So yeah, whether they want to flick that over to affect their bottom line, I'm not sure. It's just not something we were comfortable to do. But yeah, there could be a range of factors. They could be selling their assets to an entity as well, so their loss on sale might not be as significant. So there could be, yeah, a whole range of actions taken by the councils to watch this space.
Yeah, but again, we'll have settled things by the time we adopt the LTP in June.
Yeah, we expect to get clear guidance. Obviously, hopefully the legislation will be more explicit in the transfer, or if not, there'll be some underlying guidance that all councils can apply consistently.
Yeah, thank you. Paul, and then Jim.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so it's only 13 councils going through this audit process, because the others did their long-term plans in the prior period. And if any of those councils' preferred option is to continue to deliver the water services in-house, they won't have that same kind of issue. So yeah, you'll end up with a variety of approaches to treating this transaction. In the previous water reform process, there was actually instructions in the Act as to how this should be treated. Which was really the way we are treating it. So not reporting a significant loss. And even though the Office of the Auditor General are aware of that, because they took the position because the current bill and the Preliminary Arrangements Act is silent on this matter. It says that matters shall be treated in accordance with generally accepted accounting practice. They have taken the technical position that because it's silent, it needs to be treated in the way they have proposed, and hence the qualification.
So it leads to the other 54 or so TAs, territorial authorities, that did do an LTP, they'll have to do a significant amendment in year 3, will they?
I would have thought there would need to be quite a number of amendments especially once the water services plans are finalised. They have a very significant impact on the long-term plan. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time for everybody else as well.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, I find it extraordinary that audit should adopt a position that actually contradicts the most recent legislative declaration taken by the New Zealand Parliament. If the previous Act presupposed certain things occurring and certain assumptions being made by councils, audit, in my view, is not entitled simply to invent a new series of criteria that end up with us having a qualified opinion just to justify their existence and the $250,000 they're charging us. This frustrates me so much. I'm so angry about this. I cannot express politely the frustration I feel about these matters and about the way these people are essentially dominating the consultation process and denying us an open and honest chance to engage with our community. The other question I wanted to ask Amanda, I think you said the issue of balanced budgets. When you talked to us in December, you flagged the fact that there would be 2 of the 9 years the budget may not be balanced. Has audit imposed a requirement on you to define any of the subsequent 7 years as being not balanced either, or is that simply the result of information received unhappily late in order for us to actually produce a coherent document from sources like Burl?
It's nothing to do with lateness. It's just audit changes. So it's all to do with the numbers. The underlying numbers have resulted in.
So they're imposing this on us as well.
They're just doing their job. So we have the most recent Burl indices, and they need to ensure that all councils apply the same rates. We'd used draft versions. the more recent ones have come, so we've replaced them. Also, we hadn't used the correct rate for doing our fair value adjustments, revaluing our assets.
Okay, question for you and Paul and Alex. Merely because we are entering the process with a set of numbers that signal 9 years of unbalanced budgets, that does not mean that the ultimate outcome will be that. We are absolutely entitled to say, through the process of the annual plan, as a consequence of our own efforts and those of the community, we will ensure that all of those 9 years are balanced.
So that does say that in the consultation document, that that's our intention at the moment. I
Right.
can't say any stronger than intention because it's subject to the decisions you make. And so, yeah, we will only know that when we get to adopting the long-term plan, or we should know that in the run-up to that based on the directions you give us. But it certainly says in the consultation document that is our intention to get to a balanced budget position for the.
Can you share those words with us now, please, Alex?
So it's my intention when we go to the recommendations that we'll modify the third recommendation to actually be specific, that we will ensure we have we adopt a balanced budget, which is in June. So it is it's something that Alex or officers can't put in their recommendation, but it's something that we can agree to.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it's really important to give the community that message. Simon.
Sorry, Jim, just to your point in your question before of Alex, on page 14 of the draft consultation plan, one of the latter paragraphs on the first page refers to the fact it talks about the unbalanced budgets and the fact that over the course of the next while they will be grappling with trying to get it balanced. And of course, there's the small issue of there being a regulatory requirement that we do balance them.
Sorry, my point is, I want to hear what we have got in the document tonight, because I'm going to move some amendments to the consultation document in addition to the ones that are on the table at the moment.
Okay, so I was just referring to page 14.
I want to be absolutely clear what the words say, because I want to be absolutely clear that we are telling people with sufficient clarity what our intentions are and what the outcome will be.
And so the exact words are on page 14 of the consultation document that got sent to you.
And I've explained to people prior to the meeting that the way it's been sent to me, I can't enlarge it and I can't read it. The text is microscopic.
Right. I mean, part of the problem is that there is such interference really in the consultation document that it's something that we use to consult with our community and questions we ask them, and they're basically going to the end result and auditing all of that before we've even got to it. So it is a challenging process, and it is arguably overreach by the government requiring that level of audit and that level of cost that comes with it. But we can rant on all evening if we want, but it's not going to change the legislation. So the commitment that we need to make is that we will have a balanced budget that we do end up adopting in June. Councillor Blackler.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got kind of three questions all along the same line. So I'll just or running the same kind of theme. So should I just rattle them all out, or one at a time, or how would you like me to do that?
Try the first one and see whether they want to take them more.
So I guess the overarching question is, would it usually be prudent to adopt a consultation document and an underlying draft budget that informs that document that runs at a deficit for multiple years? So that's the first question. And supplementary to that, would the application of or how would the application of the bill inflation and valuation indices impact the rates projections, and on what kind of quantum, and then further to that, what would it look like, and what amount of time would you need to deliver back to us a balanced budget, or a balanced draft budget that underlies the figures that are presented in the consultation document? Just picking out page 16, 46, 48 and 49 of the consultation document, all those figures would change that we're consulting with the community on.
Okay, so in terms of would it be prudent to adopt a consultation document with the underlying budgets not being balanced budget? So that is what we have proposed to do, and that we discussed in December. And I think the financial strategy on page 33 outlines our reasoning for that. So it's all to do with the expenditure, not so much the revenue side. Because we are trying to use our best information at the time, and we cannot quantify the transformation savings and also the stranded overhead for Waters. Like, we know when Waters goes, that there's going to be, you take 30% of your organisation away, there's going to be a lot of overhead costs, buildings, IT, finance department, various expenditure that we no longer need to hold on to because we're not servicing such a huge organisation. So that's all your stranded overheads. We can't quantify that now for the auditors to tick off. So that's something we've got to work through the next few months as we lay down the last of our new org structure and work out the budgets exactly by department. So that's something, a big job that we've got to work out and get the feel through consultation if the community actually wants us to move Three Waters to another entity. If they decide to keep it in-house, then we won't be getting rid of stranded overheads. So it's a lot of work that we've got to work through, and same with the transformation savings. So I guess the angle we were coming from, this is the worst case scenario of our expenditure across all of council over those 9 years. And we could simply, I guess this links to your third question about how long it would take to balance the budgets, we could simply increase rates. I guess a rule of thumb, for every million, you'd probably increase rates about 1%. So where you've got a $10 million shortfall, you might increase rates another 10%, and then you've covered your shortfall, your budget balances. That's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to show the community accurately, this is our costs right now. We're working hard to bring them down. We've got a lot of things in play, the transformation program, everything, and we just give us a few more months to get to 30 June, and we fully expect during consultation, we will be able to balance the budgets hopefully without having to increase the rates so significantly. As I talked about before, there's a few other options that we're consulting on, selling assets, other revenue generating levers that we can pull, and all about getting the right balance between borrowing and rates as well. So we could increase borrowing, spread across the costs longer over the life of assets. There's a whole range of levers we could pull to balance the budget right now. Obviously, it can't happen instantly, and it's going to create a big audit process again. So yeah, it would take quite a bit of time, but I felt that it was prudent to go out with what we had right now and leave it to the community and get the feedback. And then once we've got the full picture, we can balance the budgets for the version we adopt in June.
Thanks. The supplementary. Oh, sorry, Paul, were you going to say something?
So I think Amanda answered probably the second and third question very well. But the first question, this is the way actually a lot of councils undertook their consultation. And it's so common. That's why Audit has taken the position, this is only an emphasis of matter, which is their lightest possible sort of approach to an issue. And all they're saying is, the reader of this document needs to be aware of it. It's not a serious, it's an issue, but not a fundamental issue. So, by them saying it's just an emphasis and matter, they're saying this is a common approach. It's just something people need to be aware of when they're looking at the material. So I think that you can take comfort from that, the quite light hand they've taken on this issue compared to the far more serious approach they've taken to something which I think we all agree is a rather absurd position. So, I think that's probably the best answer to your first question.
Thank you, Paul and Amanda. But I guess supplementary to that, we've answered questions around, obviously we could increase the revenue by increasing rates, as was illustrated, or we could, explore the options around.
Looks like we've lost him. His broadband must be down a bit. While we wait for Tim to rejoin, just double check on that. Oh no, here's there. Tim, you there?
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. I was just. Is it okay if I just carry on?
Yep.
Gary?
Yep. Go for it.
Yeah. I guess I was just wanting to explore further. We've discussed that, we can increase rates as a lead transformation, and what benefits are going to be yielded through that and through efficiencies garnered there. But and then we've discussed, the residual overheads, what needs to, what will go and what will ultimately be stranded. I guess
now he has disappeared, I think. Can you just bookmark that one, Amanda? We'll come back to that if Tim can join on again. Councillor Hopkins again.
Yeah, my question is to Paul and Amanda and to Alex. On page 14, I've now got it on my phone, and I can make it bigger. Are the additional paragraphs required by audit, the two paragraphs starting, Council is currently not balancing its budget and is forecasting a deficit for each of the 9 years over the life of the plan, as operating costs are forecast to be higher than operating revenues each year. This reflects the reality of the financial situation that we are all grappling with, and Council's strong desire to not simply increase rates to cover the increased costs each year. We expect cost reductions will soon be realised as a result of our transformation work, and overhead costs will decrease if the three water, etc. I won't read it all, but are those the two paragraphs that audit has required to be added?
Yep. So in the last version we had versions of those two paragraphs. A lot of those words are straight out of our financial strategy, page 33 of the financial strategy.
Correct. Which I was going to propose it should be amended.
Okay, it will need to be re-audited. So they have asked us to add extra emphasis, extra clarification. What were the exact words? About the sentence, there's a high level of uncertainty over the amount of cost savings that will be achieved, and that it's a complex issue that could impact rates and debt levels. So we had talked about that we weren't balancing the budget. Oh, we've also added specifically that it's forecasting a deficit, so people understand what balancing the budget is, and over the 9 years of the plan. So it's a lot of clarification to be very explicit about what we've done. The reasoning is the same about the transformation work, and overhead costs is the same, but then to really emphasise there's a lot of uncertainty over those figures, and that it's complex and it could impact the final rates and debt levels.
But
Amanda, can we be explicit in there that we're talking about
Yes.
the draft? Because I think that's, we have no intention of having an unbalanced budget for the LTP. It's just the draft currently is showing that in the underlying figures. So I just asked that question. You don't need to answer, but I think it may be a question for audit New Zealand. So see how you get on with that. I do note Tim, is Tim back again? Or is he gone again?
May I just finish? Amanda, if tonight we resolved that there would be no unbalanced budgets for any of the 9 years, then at the conclusion of the sentence, there is a high level of uncertainty over the amount of cost savings that will be achieved. This is a complex issue that could impact rates and debt levels, but the council has resolved to actually ensure there is a balanced budget for each of the 9 years of this LTP at its meeting on February 3, 2025. Full stop. And I can't see how audit could possibly object to that.
To resolve to balance the budget, we would need to redo all of the finances to balance the budget. And then a lot of this content, like obviously you would have to increase rates or try and book some cost savings, and then that would all need to be audited. So it's kind of going back to the start of the process. So to say that you've resolved to balance the budget, you would need to prove to Audit New Zealand, you'd have to provide financial statements where the budget was balanced, which is a bit of work.
Well, what council has resolved to ensure that there will be. I mean, if it is made conditional in that sense, I can't see how they could possibly object. That's like saying that audit is entitled to tell governments of this country what their budgets in future years have to be, and they can't, and they shouldn't.
We have made this decision not to balance the budget that was discussed in December, and they're just simply pointing it out, emphasising it to the reader. I think Gary's point about emphasising that it's draft, like I think we tried to do that by saying currently not balancing the budget, and that we expect that it will soon be, cost reductions will soon be realised, but for now we have done this. So I think maybe if I talk to the auditors about emphasising more that this is draft and maybe incorporating what you've suggested as well, like that we expect to balance the budget at the final LTP stage in our final budgets.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, did you get enough of Tim's question to be able to respond to him? Do you want to have another go, Tim?
Yeah. I'll just leave my camera off just in case it's connection at my end. Yeah, I'll just park that question up. But I did have another question on the previous annual plan, and presumably the previous LTP had miscalculated required borrowing due to projects classified as reserve funded, not anticipating external funding would be required if those reserves were overdrawn. So could you please provide some assurances that this has been remedied and there'll be no material error in the forecast debt going forward?
Yep, I can assure you that any debt requirements to fund CapEx have been correctly pulled out of the debt balance. So our debt forecasts over those 9 years correctly show what is required to meet our CapEx requirements.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. I guess obviously there's been changes made to the consultation document, but I guess what other has any thought been given to what sort of changes we could make to the engagement process to really make sure that there's clarity around the unbalanced budget, and so so we can get genuine feedback from the community, and I guess focus on key messages to ensure that they really understand what that means outside of the consultation document itself.
I guess, yeah, the consultation document is the starting point. We've tried to make it plain English, short and sharp. It has got a bit wordy now through the audit process. But yeah, it's about having these real life conversations. There's a lot of underlying documents that people can click in to read more, like even reading the financial strategy along with page 14, there's some graphs that outline exactly what you're talking about today and the degree of the overs and unders and things. So I guess it's just maybe if we can answer all of your questions ahead of it and be fully informed about what each of these issues mean. But yeah, I think there's quite a lot. Our website's going to look pretty good. It should go up live tomorrow with good links to underlying support, and yeah, we've tried to make it really engaging and informative for everyday people to read it.
Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, I'm just getting the interweb working down here. I just bring us back to the task in hand. No one starts a game of tennis presuming to know what the final score is going to be, or no one plays tennis and is influenced by the lunatic in the crowd who's throwing in bits of instruction. And I think we're being distracted by Audit New Zealand. And what we really need to be doing is progressing and moving forward as to how we're going to engage with the community to come up with a long-term plan that is fit for purpose. And that's going to involve some hard graft and some hard decisions. And if we get ourselves distracted, then Audit New Zealand almost win the point, and we lose the game.
Good analogy. Right. Any other questions? Okay. Councillor McCone.
Look, I just have a comment that I find the whole system absolutely ludicrous, that an audit is running a system on assumptions rather than actual facts. And it's actually putting us behind and leading to our ratepayers and in our district about what we can and can't do. And to me, budget's pretty simple. If you haven't got enough money, you find a source of finding it, or you cut down your expenditure, and that's the end of the story. It's simple.
Yeah, I do. You know, people like comparing us to our household and their expenditure. I mean, this is looking at all of the things you could be buying and so forth, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a certain amount of money and you prioritise accordingly. That's the process we're asking the community to go through, is give feedback on some of those priorities that they might have, and that'll help us make the decision. So yeah, we don't want to be spending more than we've got, and certainly we don't want to be spending more than our ratepayers have got. So there's a bit of work to be done, but the main thing is to get on and engage with the community over this next month, 5 weeks period, and then get feedback from them. John?
So just further to that, from the audit side, how long has this system that audits put in there been in the system? And is there a way that we can actually get to central government and say, why is this so ludicrous and costing so much money, rather than progress?
Alex?
I can't comment on how long it's been there, but there's a piece of work that local government is doing overall, and also some work that the Canterbury Mayoral Forum, which we're part of, has been doing to really campaign for a change in the way that audit works. Yeah, audit performs a really important function to help you in your governance role, and to help our community and give assurance to our community. But we seem to get distracted by lots of detail and issues that some of that important work has been lost. I think I'd take you back to a conversation that we had before Christmas, and very much encourage you to think this is your, we have to, by law, go through this audit process. We have to listen to what they say, but this is your long-term plan and your consultation. There are some big issues for you to tackle, some big decisions to make, and the sooner we get on with the consultation with the community and hear their views, the more time you have to think about what they feed back to you, and to make those, what are going to be some tough decisions in there. If we, want to keep fiddling around with the consultation document, we're going to have to keep going back to audit to get their permission, essentially, because that's what the law says we have to do. We don't like it. We don't want to do it. It's not a perfect document. It's become, wordy because of some of the changes we've had to make. But my encouragement is focus on this is your plan, your consultation, your decisions you're going to have to make before June on some big issues. So the sooner we hear from the community, despite our concerns about some of the things we've been told through the audit process, the better a position you'll be in and the more time you'll have to make the decisions you have to make.
Thank you, Brent. And then Jim.
Thank you. Look, the way I see things, it's the cards we've been dealt. We have to deal with the fact that audit do have this. We can sit here and moan all night about audit being good, bad, or indifferent, but that's not going to change the process that we have to go through at the moment. And I hail Jim T's discussion there that we need to get out there. We need to get a really good, robust document out there. And for us to balance it, we have to have these discussions and for people to come back. And I do agree we need to be very clear that this is it's only unbalanced at the moment, that we will come back and balance that budget. But, we've got to get a document out there and start the process and get on with it because, that's what's going to lead us to the final goal. We've got through until June to get on with this. And I'm sure there's a lot of consultation to go between now and then that will shape the end document and what it's going to look like.
Thanks, Brent. Jim?
Yeah, look, Audit's been involved in this since the 1989 Act, crafted by Sandra Lee and co. Back in the day. The historian who was the Labour Party local government minister at the time. So they've had this role, which has increased and expanded entirely unreasonably, in my view, both in terms of cost and their intrusion into the document. I mean, Alex is right. It's our plan, and we are engaging with our community. But the problem that we've had tonight is that our engagement with our community has been distorted, frustrated, and potentially led to misleading conclusions that are likely to incur wrath amongst members of the community aimed at us, largely as a consequence of their interventions. And I would remind members that in December, we actually voted to write to the Minister of Regulations, actually challenging him to relieve councils of some of these burdens, simply by saying that the impost, financial and interventionist, if you will, on Audit's behalf, in terms of the production of these documents, is unacceptable and excessive. Now, obviously, we've had a Christmas break and we haven't drafted that letter yet, but the sooner we send it off, in my view, the better. I checked the resolution today. I moved it. It was passed. So it's on the books. At some point, we're going to write to David Seymour and say, get rid of this unnecessary fiscal and bureaucratic burden.
Yeah. There's all the way it is, there are these comments are being made to ministers and to MPs around the country, and hopefully they'll listen. Anyone else wishing to comment? Or Deputy Mayor Halaleli, welcome for Waitaki.
Hey, thank you. I can hear everybody's frustrations, and I don't think it's helpful that we keep going on, about audit, but just supportive of, like what Brent and Jim Thompson has said, but also accepting what Jim Hopkins, what you're saying. I think we just need to get back and just kind of focus on what, we need to do in the here and now, like what Alex said. So I think I've got like 1 minute left on this meeting, so just waiting to see when we're ready to move something.
Well, I'm going to move the recommendations that we've got with an amendment to the third one, or a change to the third one, where it says resolves that it's financially prudent to adopt an unbalanced budget for each financial year of the term of the 25 to 34 draft long-term plan, noting that during deliberations, the governance team will develop a balanced budget for the long-term plan.
I'm happy to second that with a very couple of minor amendments, Gary, if you'd entertain them. I'm happy to second that if you'd be willing to add the words, resolves it is financially prudent to adopt an initial unbalanced budget for each financial year of the term of the 2025-34 draft long-term plan, noting that during deliberations, the government's team and council officers will develop a balanced budget for the LTP and.
I'm happy with that.
Thank you. I'll second it then.
Thank you. Councillor Holding.
So just to be clear on that time frame, is that he's saying that'll be done by the end of March over the 1 month consultation?
No. When we adopt the LTP in June.
By June.
Yeah. So people will make their submissions, we'll have the hearings and deliberations, and that will result in just as many processes would. That would be a fine-tuning of what we've currently got.
I think I could support that. I thought you were shortening the time frame.
No. Councillor Blackler?
I'm just, am I able to speak to this yet?
Yeah.
Mayor Kircher, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be voting against today. Just, on the basis of, at the same time as casting these projections, which are unbalanced, according to the water modelling for a CCO model and the associated FFO requirements, there'll be a significant burden placed on households through a separate water charge. And I think by not adopting a projected balanced budget that gives some kind of level of commitment from our part to what we are actually going to achieve, means that pages 16, 46, 48 and 49 of the consultation document could be materially wrong. And I just asked the question, how will the community engage with the setting of a draft budget that's all the associated issues when the draft budget isn't balanced, if it's not done until after the fact.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers to the motion? Okay, sorry, Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, I understand what Tim's saying, but effectively, and I know my heart says, yes, you're right. My head says, if we all voted as you have indicated you intend to, effectively, we would not have a consultation document and we would not have consultation, because we'd have to go back and redraft everything and produce an entirely new set of figures, which would then have to be re-audited. At least at this stage, what we are saying clearly to people is, this is where we are starting, but it is not where we intend to finish. And I accept your point, Tim, that that does have impact in terms of people's ability to assess and examine and critique the out years. But in terms of actually having a long-term plan and meeting other statutory obligations, I really can't see how we could actually pursue the approach you are proposing and actually without becoming ultra vires in terms of having a document and or a consultation in time to adopt an LTP by July 1.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? I'll put it then. Those in favour, please raise your hand. It's against. That's carried.
Mayor Kircher, I would like to move 2 additional resolutions, please.
Sorry, could I have that recorded, please?
So a vote against recorded for Councillor Blackler. Thank you, Tim. Jim?
Yeah, Mayor Kircher, I will move as follows. I'm moving the page 31 of the 2025-2034 draft long-term plan consultation document is amended by removing the words "our preferred option" and accompanying arrow from the option B column. And the second resolution, that page 31 of the 2025-2034 draft long-term plan consultation document is amended by adding the words, quote, "People have strong views about this road. Some say it must stay open. Some say that it's just too costly. We're looking at 3 options. Which is your choice? We need to know so we can plan properly." Those are the 2 resolutions I'm moving.
2 motions, Jim.
Oh, 2 motions, sorry, yes.
I'll just seek officer comment before I ask for a seconder.
So I'm happy to start, but Amanda and Paul might want to jump in. So I believe under the legislation, if we're going to consult on a particular issue, the council needs to state what its preferred option is, I think, is the first issue, that we're required to do that if we're going to have it as a consultation topic. The other issue I'd raise is if you're going to amend the consultation document, that's quite a big amendment. We would need to take it back to audit, so we won't be starting consultation tomorrow in line with what you've just resolved as a council. I don't know whether Amanda or Paul have got anything to add to that.
No, I concur. I don't have anything to add.
Well, I would hope some councillor would at least second it pro forma so there can be a brief discussion before it's voted down.
I'll second it, Jim.
Thank you. Look, speaking to it, we do not have a preferred option. It is wrong to say we do. Orders are imposing this on us when at the council meeting at which the alternatives were discussed, the elected members of this council clearly and explicitly resolved to let the community send a signal to us as to what their preference was. And we wanted that to be open-ended. Now, the thing that frustrates me is that this week's Oamaru Mail says council closure of Beach Road closure preferred. Now, that is damaging and is already generating hostile email traffic. The same reporter carries a story in Saturday's ODT, council lists alternatives. So my view is we need to be very explicit that at this stage we do not have a preferred position. And by removing the words "our preferred position" and adding the 37 words that I have moved in the second resolution, we actually add about 5 lines to the document. And if you look at the pages, there is room for them to be included. Of that, I have no doubt. And in my view, in this instance, the elected members are entitled to say to audit, naff off. We do not have a preferred option. We want to hear from the community and we'll make a decision once we have. And if you don't like that, we're going to do it anyway.
Just to clarify, it's a requirement of the Local Government Act to say your preferred option. And it's also a signal to the reader, like to clearly show what we've built into our budgets and all the assumptions we've made underneath as well. So like if we weren't clear what one that we are forecasting on, it wouldn't be clear how much we've built into our budgets and our rates increases and that sort of thing. So we need, it's maybe the wording isn't great, but that's what legislation requires. It's not specifically audit.
Well, sorry, Amanda, the elected members resolved on the day the matter was put to us that our preferred option was to wait to see what the community wanted. So in terms of options A, B, and C, we do not at this stage have, by way of resolution, a preferred option. We don't. And it is wrong to say to the community that we do. What we're saying to them is, you tell us what you think should happen to this road and we will listen.
Alex and then Councillor Blackler.
So I just think, to re-emphasise, Amanda has provided the advice that you would be acting against the Local Government Act. If you did that, the Local Government Act stipulates if we're going to consult on a subject, we have to set what the option is. So you'd be requiring us to act against the law, which I don't think I would recommend.
Tim?
I was just speaking in favour. I totally endorse what Councillor Hopkins said. I think putting forward an unbalanced budget is more of an issue than some words on a consultation document. And I think to Councillor Hopkins' point, I think we're able to symbolise on the document what we by law have to have, but also incorporate the flavour of what Councillor Hopkins is putting forward. And I feel similarly about the water services consultation part of the document, which obviously I'm not proposing we change that as well, but for the same reasons as Councillor Hopkins outlined, I'm genuinely interested in understanding what the perspectives of the community are, undeterred by what our theoretical position is.
Yeah, I've got a lot of sympathy with it. I think it's a case of the law being a bit of an ass. To be fair, this is not our preferred option, as has been noted, and I would. I think it's there's a solution that's maybe not listed in here that may be a compromise that we can find, and I'd certainly want to hear from the community, and I think it's within our power to recommend something that obviously officers need to recommend against doing, because they do need to recommend that we follow the law on this one. But I think in this case the law doesn't allow us to express properly, and we end up needing having to put a preference in there that we actually aren't in agreement with. So yeah, it's not an easy one. I'm not sure quite how this is going to go, but that's my 2 cents worth. Does anyone else want to speak to the motion? Okay, Councillor Ryan.
More of a question. I mean, I guess, like I do in a lot of ways agree with what Councillor Hopkins and Blackler are saying, but surely there are ways in the engagement process that we can address this without halting the process at this point because of potential changes. Could we not address that through our own engagement with the community?
We could have a massive ad campaign saying this is not our preference. Yeah, not an easy situation, but we'll go to the chair of the roading subcommittee.
Thank you, Gary. Look, I'm going to vote against this. Whilst I'm sympathetic towards it, I'll remind you that we need to start the process. And I think it's quite simple. If collectively we all say the same thing, that we think this is a load of rubbish having to state a preference, it's a requirement of central government, but we're here to genuinely engage, and we will take the best decision possible once we have received the community's advice. And provided we all stick to the script on that, we shouldn't have a problem.
Right. Brent.
Yeah, quickly, I agree. I think we have to have, from my understanding, a preferred option there. And also, if we look back at other previous ones, when there's things of contention, we get more engagement and allows us to engage more and to be able to get our preference out there. I'm not saying that this here is being used as bait in any way, but if there's something there contentious, we're going to be able to engage with our community, hopefully, better. I would like to see really thorough engagement through this, but if we don't move forward today, we're not going to have engagement.
Righto, I'll put it. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? That is lost. Let the ad campaign start. Jim, we can't hear you because you're muted, which is quite good at the moment. Now, did you have another one?
No, well, I moved those two, and
Right.
I presume you put them both together, did you, Gary?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just like my vote recorded. I would like to move a couple of resolutions with regard to the financial strategy that's in front of us. And I'm sorry, in this instance, I believe that Parliament has actually trumped audit, Paul and Amanda, because my view is that if you look at page 20 of the financial strategy, it is my clear view that the first paragraph, which says that there will have to be a legislative change making a curbside collection compulsory, that is now obsolete. That decision was rescinded by the current government very late on December the 23rd or 24th last year. Equally, there are references on page 27 to the new separate entity that will be providing water services, actually requiring residents to pay rates. Now, I don't think they will, and I think the word rates is misleading. I think the word charges would be infinitely more accurate, and that those references to the rates rates rather than charges occur on pages 27 and 39.
Sorry, Jim, can you just clarify, is it the 27 on the document?
No, there's 27 on the agenda. Sorry.
Agenda, right, yeah.
So hang on, I've got the I can find the documents here if you like, but it's page
right.
20 of the agenda, and I think page 9 of the document itself is the one referencing the curbside collections. And page 27 is page 16. There's a reference to community will still be required to pay a similar level of rates overall. The decrease in rates from the council will be offset by the rates that will be required to be paid to the new water entity. I think that's misleading. It is almost certain there won't be rates from the new entity, there'll be charges. And I think those words should be changed. And I do think that the wording on page 44 about balanced budgets should be strengthened a little to reflect what we have resolved tonight by way of a determination to ensure that what is shown at the beginning of the process will not apply at the end. So to that end, I would like to move as follows, that the financial strategy is amended as follows. A, the first sentence on page 9, that's of the strategy, is deleted and replaced with the sentence, in December 2024, the government announced that previous plans making council operated and funded curbside recycling collections compulsory would not be implemented. So the future of our waste management system is now a decision for the council and our community. And B, that all references on pages, I think that, no, I'm sorry here, my bad, it's 27 and 39 of the agenda, that all references on page 27 and 39 of the agenda to rates needing to be paid to the new separate water entity are replaced with the word charges. And finally, that the references to unbalanced budgets not factoring in a range of significant charges is rewritten to emphasise that calculation has not yet been made, but will be over the council period, and that council is confident the adopted LTP will show balanced budgets in all years. I'm moving those three amendments.
Thank you. Again, before I get a seconder, I'll just see if officers want to make comment.
I guess same sort of response. I'll need to put that through audit again and get their clearance. The balanced budget one on page 33 of the financial strategy, or 44 of the agenda, the final paragraph is pretty blunt that the council will meet the balanced budget requirement each year.
Amanda, sorry. Parliament has said in December that as a conclusion drawn in the financial statement drafted earlier about the fact that a previous government's intentions regarding curbside collections will not be imposed. Now, we do not have to ask audit for permission to acknowledge something that Parliament has amended. We just tell our audit, your bosses changed the rules, so we're changing our document.
Jim, just to expedite this a little bit, could you move that subject to sign off from audit or something like that? Now they should sign it off, but
all right, okay, that's subject to endorsement from the audit office. The financial strategy is amended, etc.
Sorry, who was that? Oh, Tim. Yep, just breaking up a bit again, Tim. It's dodgy Wi-Fi. Your place there. Okay, so moved and seconded. Will be something for officers to check with audit and then go make changes if they can. Mr. Palmley.
So I was going to say that's not in the proposal at the moment, that to make changes if we can. And I think it is your financial strategy, and there will be opportunity to change it again in the future. I think needs some clarity on that. But if this has to go back through an audit process and we have to delay the consultation process, because the audit opinion is on the basis of the documents that you have in front of you. If you change the documents, audit will want to go through and consider what the implications are of that. I agree with some of your statements in terms of the facts, and particularly that the water bill now is talking about charges rather than rates. But it's just that this is the basis for the audit opinion or draft audit opinion that they've issued, and so as a matter of process, they'll want to go back through again. Which means that we won't be able to enact the resolution you've passed about going out to consultation with that consultation document. So I just have a concern that by doing this, we delay consultation again now, as we have to await audit, when actually there's an opportunity to correct this through the LTP process.
I wonder audit didn't pick up the illegality of the particular statement around trash. But anyway, Amanda.
Yeah, I think the financial strategy, this was part of all the documents that were put to council on the 17th of December, and I don't think they've had another fresh look at it this side of Christmas. And yeah, just to emphasise, this is a draft document. It says in the watermark throughout the financial strategy, it's draft. It's up for consultation as well, and it will not be finalised until our June meeting as well. So there's a lot of opportunity to fix it before June.
Well, and let me ask Alex and Paul and Amanda, how, if you don't want this passed because it's going to delay the process, how can we actually, can the content of those resolutions be captured in some other way rather than subject to consent from audit? Maybe that officers consider amending the financial strategy as follows. Officers consider amending the draft financial strategy as follows. I mean,
through you, I just suggest that if we could say, if there was at the start of the resolution that in the next iteration of the financial strategy, these amendments were made, so that when it comes back to you in future, we've captured those amendments rather than trying to amend it now and potentially delaying the consultation process.
Look, I'm happy with that if the seconder is. Alex, have you got a set of words that would just be by way of the preamble?
I don't have a set of words because I didn't fully capture your words that you wrote, and I was hoping to catch them off the recording, Councillor Hopkins, for the minutes.
Well, I'm not sure that
I think I'm going to put it. We're a bit over time, and so we'll just see how it goes. So could I have an indication? Hands up. Those in favour? Those against? And it is lost. So it's a good point, Jim, but again, delaying us getting on with the consultation we want to, and we can take audit up on it, and why didn't they catch that particular change in law? We'll do that at another time.
May I just ask one very quick question of officers?
You may.
There are a number of typos in the infrastructure strategy and the financial strategy. Who do I discuss those with? Presumably tomorrow. They are typos, genuine apostrophes in the wrong place, singular verbs for plural.
Okay.
They are genuine typos. They're not changing the meaning.
Who can they be passed on to?
So I'm happy for you to pass them through to me if you've got a marked up copy that you want to pass through, and then in the next iteration we can get those sorted.
Right.
They're still drafts.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Right. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, officers, for all the work that's had to go on. Some of you coming back from leave early and having to work through quite a considerable amount of effort to gone into get this through audit, etc. So, yeah, despite the grumbles and so on, we do appreciate the work that you've done, and we look forward to engaging with the community over this next month. Tomorrow night, Jim, you'll be back online talking about property. Yeah. So Facebook Live session tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Everyone can tune in and enjoy you even more. Otherwise, everyone, have a good evening, and thanks everyone for joining, those who are watching on the live stream. Thanks.
Thanks.
Meeting closed.